Qatar is the first enemy to the United States of America values. We are talking about a radical Islamist movement changing the future of the United States of America. Tamim is a man who loves to be worshipped. You have a psychopath who's running the country. If we want to end the terrorism in the Middle East, we should start with Qataris' money. If there is no Qatar, there is no terrorist groups.
And welcome back to The Brief. We are joined today by Sheikh Khalid Al-hail. He is a Qatari dissident and the president of the Qatar National Democratic Party. He has been jailed and tortured for his activism against the Qatari government, and he joins us here today. Sheikh Khalid, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
So I want to frame the conversation as follows. The leader of the opposition in Canada, Pierre Poilievre, he lives in Canada. The leader of the opposition in the United States, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they live in the United States. You are the self-described leader of the opposition of Qatar, yet you primarily live in Europe. So can you explain to our viewers, why are you not able to actually live in Qatar, in the country you are trying to reform?
Qatar is an absolute monarchy system. They finished the constitutional monarchy system in 2024, where they canceled the whole election in Qatar. Basically, we had promises since 2013 that we would have an election for the parliament. They did in 2021 when they saw that the opposition started to win more seats than the government, than the appointed seat. Then they just canceled the whole election of Qatar, because what they wanted is just a one-man show.
It's a bit of a disturbing characterization you're painting of Qatar, and I think to really amplify that, Qatar has been a key financial supporter of the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas. They've transferred more than $2 billion over to Hamas over the last 20 years. Khalid Mashal, Ismail Hania, they live in Doha. So can you explain to our viewers, why exactly is Qatar hosting Hamas members? Why exactly is it hosting the members of the Muslim Brotherhood in its country, if, again, this is a country that is seeking to style itself as a Western-style democracy?
So basically, as we said before, Qatar is an absolute monarchy system run by one man. The main reason they are hosting terrorist organization like Hamas, because they are influenced by the Muslim Brotherhood ideology. Every single terrorist regime in the region that opposing the West, starting from the Iranian regime, from the Khomeini admission, started by the Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas, Al-Qaeda started from 1999. Qatar, Al Jazeera was the main stream media to promote the messages of Al-Qaeda. The same things happen with Hamas, and the main reason is that they want to control the narrative of the Islamists. They want to have more power within the region. They want to have power on the people that live within the Middle East by the name of Islam, and that's the way they are doing it.
The Qataris, since the mid-90s, have been sponsoring radicals. They have been inciting people. They have become a base for the leadership for the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood, you have to keep in mind, is what begot us Takfir and Hijrah, which begot us Al-Qaeda, which begot us Al-Nusra. The Qataris allow their senior religious clerics to go on television and justify suicide bombings. That's not acceptable. The Qataris harbor and shelter terrorists. That's not acceptable. And Nashri, the head of Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, in 2000, entered Saudi Arabia on a Qatari passport. We captured Al-Qaeda types coming into Saudi Arabia with Qatari passports. The Qataris know this. The Americans know this.
On that note, Al Jazeera is funded by the Qatari government. It acts as state-run media. It has been banned in numerous countries: Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Israel, or it's heavily restricted in Iraq and elsewhere. Why is Al Jazeera, and by extension the Qatari propaganda machine, why is it seen as such a danger to these Middle Eastern countries?
Because Al Jazeera is an intelligence platform for the state of Qatar. And as you saw, every single crisis happen in any country in the Middle East is started by Al Jazeera. They start a propaganda machine, fake news. Then they take it to an NGO that belong to them. Then they give it legitimacy within their media, referral to the NGO and the fake news they created. And then Al Jazeera use influence, or Qatar government in general, they use paid influencers to promote such messages. And that's what we saw clearly in Egypt, where the Muslim Brotherhood took power, in Tunisia, in many other countries in the Middle East, and they start to create chaos in the region, like supporting the opposition in UAE, which is a Muslim Brotherhood. The same thing they did in the Saudi Arabia. The same they will keep doing, and that's why Qatar is a threat to the region. And whatever they are doing at the current time is basically opposing any values in the West. Example, today Qatar signed an intelligence sharing agreement with the United States of America. Batel was in Qatar just today, signed the agreement, and it's a joke because basically what they're doing is signing an agreement to share information with terrorist group that they are sheltering in Qatar, and that's one of the things that they really need to reconsider the current United States regime, because we actually admire President Trump, we admire the values he's supporting, but at the same time, we are not happy about certain files like the way he's treating Qatar. Because basically, if we want to end the terrorism in the Middle East and in the region, we should start with Qataris' money. We should sanction them. We should put some laws on place that say, hold on. Either you have a constitutional monarchy system where the decision happened by the parliament or the sharing of the people, or you cannot just wake up one day and say, okay, send 2 billion to Hamas, send 100 million to this and that. That is not working like that. We are representing the other voice in Qatar. We want to participate in the decision making in the country, but you are not allowed to. We are not allowed even to basically criticize the decision that made by the Emir of Qatar, because we'll be criminalized and we put in jail. And that's one of the things that we are not happy with.
There's a lot there to unpack. I just have to ask, though, to play devil's advocate, how would you respond to the defendants of Qatar who would say, well, hang on a second, it is the United States, it is Western countries who asked us to host terrorist organizations like Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. It is America who wants an air base in Doha, which we'll get to in a little bit, in order to facilitate their military strategies against Iraq or Afghanistan. So how would you respond to those critics saying, well, hang on a second, we Qatar aren't doing this willingly or voluntarily. We're doing this because we're being told to do this by much larger countries like the United States.
That's the usual Qatari lie they want to put in the West, because basically, if there is no terrorist organizations such as Hamas and Taliban and all that terrorist groups, Qatar mediation chaos will not be there. Qatar is, no one will hear of Qatar if there is no Hamas leaders, if there is no Taliban leaders in Qatar. Basically, Tucker Carlson, when he went to Qatar forum, he basically said, I would love to buy a house in Qatar. Where? Right next to the house of the sons of Osama bin Laden, who just slaughtered 3,000 Americans, or just next door to the Taliban embassy, or just next door to the Hamas leaders. That's a joke. The same day, they was talking about how Qatar is beautiful. Khalid Mish'al, the political office manager of Hamas, said clearly from Qatar that Hamas will not give up their weapons. So which ceasefire we talking about? What mediation we talking about? All what they're trying to do is to buy time. Qatar is an expert of buying time. Tamim bin Hamad have a saying, bottle them, they will follow. Bottle them means give them money until they cannot talk, and then they will gonna just say whatever you want to say. And that's exactly how they presented themselves. They didn't gain the respect of the West. They didn't gain the respect of the people who was in Qatar taking photos and taking selfies in the West Bay Lagoon. Basically, it's where Hamas leaders live. And that's a joke. Where is Osama bin Laden's son, Umar, who have a lot of pictures with his father in Afghanistan, lives there. They slaughtered Americans. They've done a lot of terrorist acts in the region. And guess what? Most of the people don't know that the mastermind of 9/11, he actually lived in Qatar. Minister of Interior of Qatar sheltered him and hid him in his own farm in Doha. He's the cousin of the Emir of Qatar. And you come in and say, how great is Qatar? They bomb people, they kill the Americans, they are anti any Western values. I don't understand what they want to reach with that. So if you are out there to be rented out, as Qatar rented your loyalty for a short time, At least you have some respect for the people who died, for the families who spent years crying for the lost ones. So Qatar is basically what they are trying to do is convincing the West and the conservative side that we are changing or we are here to help you. You are not here to help anyone. You are here to position yourself as a terrorist state and a funder of terrorists. And at the same time, you create the propaganda of a mediation for nothing. No one negotiate with terrorists, and no one want to do it as well.
So this might be a very rudimentary and elementary question, but I'm just trying to understand here. You are describing Qatar as a state sponsor of terrorism. If you can, number one, just clearly articulate how deep the relationship is between Qatar and Hamas specifically, political, financial, ideological. And then secondly, again, this is going to sound a little silly. Why is Qatar doing this? Because on the one hand, they're hosting Formula One races, right? They're hosting the World Cup. But on the other hand, they're doing all of this nefarious activity as well, supporting the Muslim Brotherhood, supporting Hamas. Can you articulate why? What is the goal here? What is the long-term political strategy of Qatar in doing these things?
I'll be very honest with you, and I'll say the things that most of the Qataris said about Tamim. Tamim is a man who loved to be worshipped. Tamim is a man that he hide under his mother's skirt, and that's what most of the Qataris jokes about him. Sorry to say that, but that's the factual information that people in Qatar says. So basically, the boy king of Qatar, all what he wants from the people since he took the power 2013, the accusation of funding the Muslim Brotherhood in 2013, the crisis between Qatar and all the neighboring 2014, 2017, another crisis. He signed, he said, I will not do it again. I'm very sorry. He done it again. And 2017, the same issue. It's going on and on until today. The same story, the same history, nothing is changing. So your question, why they doing it? They're doing it because you have a psychopath who's running the country and he wants the country to be, or he wants him to be worshipped by others. Have you seen him next to Trump? When Trump said, oh, he's a great leader. He was red, he was happy, smiling. You don't know how much he paid for that. So this is exactly the way or the man we are describing here.
Let me continue on this theme of the political rationales behind Qatar. Between 1986 and 2024, the Qatari government poured in an estimated $7 billion into American institutions of higher learning. That's according to the American Enterprise Institute. The Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy, ISGAP, they actually say it's closer to $20 billion. So related to the question of why is Qatar funding sponsors of terrorism, why is Qatar investing so much money into America's youth? This is a country of 300,000 citizens. It is a very, very small region, yet it is pumping billions of dollars to invest on college campuses. Can you try to articulate and illuminate why are they doing this?
Gen Z for the state of Qatar, it's the ground movements, is the grassroots they are working on. So basically, if they start sponsoring those young people, if they call, for example, pro-Palestine protest, people will gonna go because they are paid for their education. They've been held by the Qatari government, and that's what we see. There's some people, they just follow the protest. They don't know anything about the story. They have no idea of what's going on. All what they do is following the money, who's sponsoring it. So basically, what they want to do as well, make them understand that certain things happening in the Middle East, it's fine. It's fine that what happened in 7th of October, and it's not fine for Israel to defend itself. And that came not only from the people there, it's from actually the scholars inside these universities, professors who advocate this, who've been paid by the state of Qatar. The educational system they are promoting is basically a grassroots for the future, which is the generation they are building for the next few years. So if you are asking me a question now, how the people go into the street blindly, of course, if you pay my fees, I will gonna be there. I have no money to pay for it. I will be there. I don't know what you are talking about. I don't know about the Palestine conflict. I don't know the history of the 7th of October, but I will be there to support the cause of what you are preaching me.
So just so I understand, you're suggesting that Qatar is using university money and student groups to spread Muslim Brotherhood ideology, anti-Western narratives. That is something that is like actually occurring on our college campuses funded by Qatar, correct?
100%.
So let me go back to something that you were referencing, I think, twice now already. And that's really the impetus of this conversation: conservative influencers being paid to go to Qatar. So we saw recently conservative commentators like Emily Wilson, Rob Smith, Caitlin Sinclair. They went on this all expense paid trip to Qatar. And I want to play a quick video for you and get your reaction to this video. In particular, it's coming from Rob Smith, a noted conservative commentator who's also an openly gay man in an openly gay relationship. So let's watch this video and then I'll ask for your reaction. So again, that was conservative commentator Rob Smith. He's an openly gay man. He's going to a country where, of course, according to its own penal code, homosexuality is punishable by death. My understanding and sort of my take when it comes to influencer trips is influencers, if that is their profession, they should be paid to go to locations, because how else are they supposed to learn about the country? I sort of draw a line, though, as to when you become a rubber stamp for the regime. So, for example, those who are paid to go to Israel, if they are paid, they should go with the clear expectation that they can ask about alleged apartheid, alleged genocide, ask any questions you want. It seems like with Qatar, the more questions you have, the less likely you will actually be invited to go. So I'm curious, when you look at that video and when you saw all of those conservative influencers recently going to Qatar, do you think they were acting as a rubber stamp? Do you think they were able to ask those tough questions on those trips?
I don't think they have any right to ask any question. They are there to enjoy for a period of time, for the rented loyalty they agreed with. They are paid and they are going. The thing is, the video I've seen now, it's a joke, because if he is coming to Doha and openly say, I am gay, fine, then speak to the government of Qatar, convince them to make it legal for you, because it's illegal. It's against the values that Tamim bin Hamad, the Emir of Qatar, is saying it publicly. So what you are on about? I don't understand the way he is positioning the Qatari regime. They are the former Minister of Justice of Qatar. He's a normal man. He just criticized certain laws in Qatar, and he's not allowed to travel. Can you ask the Emir of Qatar to open the gate for him to come with you? There is a lot of people in the Qatari intelligence office, because they spoke about some certain democracy rights for them. They are still in the prison. Did they show you that part? Did they show you Osama bin Laden's son house? Did they show you Khalid Mish'al house? We need that as well. We need people to see it. Did they take you to the former Minister of Interior of Qatar farm, where they hide in the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of the 9/11? Did they take you to Mus'ab al-Zarqawi house in Qatar, the Al-Qaeda leader? Of course not. What they wanted you to see is what they are actually planned before your trip came into Doha, because whatever you see now is illegal in Qatari law, according to the Qatari law.
In a nutshell, is Qatar a friend or foe for the advancement of American interests and the preservation of Western civilization and American military dominance across the world? Would you say Qatar is a friend?
Qatar is the first enemy to the United States of America values. If you are fighting for the American principles, go and try to understand what's the Qatari principles. They are exactly the opposite of what you believe. So Qatar is an enemy of the United States of America. The only solution is to change the regime in Qatar, because the reform system failed. They are not willing to compromise. They are not willing to be a very peaceful country. What they are willing to do is just fueling conflict in the region, and that is a big mistake. So when we trying to lobby against what the Qatari government doing in America and other countries, we find a big resistance from certain groups. That group basically being paid by Qatar. Imagine you talk to someone about Islamist radical movement inside the United States of America that being supported by Qatar, and he's telling you, oh, Islam is not a problem. Who talk about the Islam? Who's talking about Islam? We are talking about a radical Islamist movement that is actually changing the future of the United States of America. People who don't believe in the Constitution, people who will never respect Donald Trump as a president of United States of America. The Muslim Brotherhood ideology in general, the loyalty is not to the president, is not to the regime, it's to their scholars. And that's the problem we face in the Middle East. And that's why we are banning them. Because if you will not respect the constitution of every single country you are living in, then you're not part of it. You cannot pretend to be American while loyalty to a guy that's living in Egypt or a guy that's living in another country. That is not working. And that's exactly the problem we are facing.
I want to ask you one last question. You've repeatedly called Qatar, and I quote, the biggest liar in the world. What are some of the biggest lies the Qatari government tells the West today?
That they are a very modern country. They are a constitutional monarchy system. They are a good mediator. If there is no Qatar, there is no terrorist groups. For example, like a joke, I've been saying this for many days now. What's happened in Taliban, they kidnapped some British citizens, and Qatar jumped next day, said, oh, we can help you. They want to present themselves as a mediator and a good country for good causes. And that's the wrong approach that any Western country should believe.
Sheikh Khalid Al-hail, you have given us a lot to think about. I really want to thank you for this illuminating conversation, and we appreciate everything you are doing and for the time you have taken out of your day to be with us. So thanks again.
My pleasure, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much.